Welcome to the Fantastic Story Society, a place for the most unusual stories and storytellers, including your masters of ceremony, Max Tim and Scott Marcus.
Hello. Thank you all for joining us for a conversation I'm very excited to have. And yes, Max Tim looks very different this time around. We actually have, in addition to a special guest, we have a special guest host, and that is Mr. Dan Malone, somebody that you will see in some future installments of what we're doing. Max is actually down in Lincoln Park right now, a very haunted neighborhood in Chicago. So if you watched our interview with Tony Sapelski, you kind of know what some of the fun is that he's getting up to. But Dan, if you want to give a quick little introduction about who you are and why you're joining us.
Hi, so I'm Dan Malone. I'm a Great Lakes archaeologist. I work within the Chicagoland area and throughout Northern Illinois. And I also work with Native tribal people within the Chicagoland region and, throughout Wisconsin as well. I've been working with Scott for, I honestly don't know how long at this point. And we've known each other for, God, it's got to be over 20 years.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Scott and I have worked on numerous things within the Chicagoland area, both historical, archaeological, and on Scott's side of the fence, paranormal. So I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for having me as your guest host.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very excited. Each episode we tend to induct a new member to the Fantastic Story Society, but we always love welcoming back somebody who's already up among our members. And that is, in this instance, Mr. Lopaka Kapanui. I'm so happy to be talking with you again. It's been several years. I maybe even pre-pandemic last time we spoke. It's been a bit.
I think so. Yeah. That's right.
And you've been super busy. Lopaka runs Mysteries of Hawaii, tremendous tour company. He puts out books. He gives tours on the island of Oahu. Do you give tours on outer islands as well, or no?
We've the problem is logistics.
Sure, I know it.
Sort of like spread out. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I do have to say, I am currently writing a book that it's more biographical about my journey as a storyteller. But a very important part of my life was right out of college, finding work, landing in Oahu, and living out there, and really started to work in production for the first time in my adult life in Hawaii, on the island of Oahu. And then, of course, getting to know the legends and lore of the island. And of course, it's funny because now I'm writing this book and I'm looking into things a lot more than when I actually lived out there, when it was a lot easier for me to probably to look into things. I'm having to just research online, but I will be out there, later this year. But I'm definitely super curious to talk to you about so many different things. And as I mentioned, Dan, being an archaeologist who was fascinated by the culture, the history. There's so much rich history in Hawaii. And of course, what remains. And one of the main things that remains right now is, Heiaus, these big places of worship. Dan, maybe do you want to start taking it away with this subject?
Sure. So, before I left for Hawaii, I did some research, asked Scott a million questions, went down a few rabbit holes. Quite frankly, the first time that I sort of came upon this, I saw you, Lopaka, I saw you on Cliff Simon's video or show Into the Unknown about night marchers and, of course, the Heiau. And I know that Cliff had visited the Heiau. So it was very interesting to see two subjects come together. Well, in this case, the Heiaus and the night marchers. And of course, Cliff Simon, who played ball on Stargate, which I watched religiously. So when we went, we stayed at the Hilton Hawaiian Village. There was no way I was going to spend a week sitting on a beach. That's just not me. I had to get off that property, and I wanted to see what locals saw. I wanted to see the island, not just the typical tourist locations. And Scott was kind enough to put together a 25-minute video for my family in it. And so I sat and drank coffee, and for 2 mornings I watched it, and I decided that's it. I'm renting a car. I believe they were the Hui Hui cars. I still have the app. So I rented that, and around the island, around the southeastern part of the island we went. And though we visited various locations, the one that stayed with me was Makapuʻu Beach with the Heiau that's located just off of the beach. So, you know, we arrived, and, you know, here in the States, and I know Scott has joined me, we recently took a group of Native people on a tour of Lake Geneva. And Lake Geneva has many mound sites, effigy mounds, beautiful creatures that actually live in and around the lake. You've got thunderbirds, Mishi Peshwa, which is a water panther. So I wanted to see what it was, you know, similar things in Hawaii. And in this case, these sacred sites are made of stone. And so I didn't know what the protocol was. I decided, okay, here, usually we leave tobacco. Over there, I'm assuming it's a lei or something else. But when my daughter and my wife and I entered the parking lot, I said, look, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to be brief. I said, we're going to go in. We need to be respectful. We're only taking photos. And I went in. I sort of put that intention out there when entering that sacred landscape. We did not enter any of the structures. I want to put that out there. We went, we saw, we took photos, and we left, as it should be. But I know heiaus were built at different times across many centuries, and I know that the construction dates, you know, from what, the 5th century all the way through the 1800s. However, one of my questions, and these are things that I happen to ask Scott, is there an actual, even though they're spanning centuries in construction, is there a connection between them? So, for example, like in Peru, you have the Incan roads that connect all these different locations, cities, towns, and whatnot, these settlements. Were heiaus built with some of that purpose behind them? So you go through the island and you stop off at these different centers?
You know, the person who determined where a heiau was going to be and where it was going to face, and the size of the structure, or, you know, whatever that is what was called the kuhi puone. And so this was a geographer, but also a spiritual geographer who could determine, you know, power spots that had mana. Alignment was very important. And so there are some heiau that would be on the other side of the island, but somehow, some way were aligned with another one that was, like, you know, on the east side. And some of them were connected through a system of underground lava tubes. And then some of them were connected, you know, via, I don't know what the word is. What's the word? Electromagnetic energy?
Ley lines?
Ley lines, yeah.
Ley lines?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but also what happens is, you know, this heiau is built under the rule of this chief. That chief dies or is killed in war. So the chief that comes in either breaks that heiau down, or it, you know, and sort of makes it a what we call ho'omana, imbuing it now with the new ruling chief's power. Okay. You know, symbolically lessening the previous chief's mana. So, and we know we have heiau for human sacrifice, but we also had heiau for astrology, divination, microbiology, you know, healing, just so many purposes of different types of temples. Some for hula, you know. So, but unfortunately, we're known for the ones, you know, because of these movies in the 50s that have a use for human sacrifice.
No. Okay. Interesting. So it's interesting because it kind of reminds me of, like, the ancient Egyptians. When there'd be a new ruler, they would, well, one of their first steps would be to erase the name of the previous ruler and kind of, you know, erase history to some degree. It's interesting how that is just a through line throughout cultures, apparently.
It happened to Akhenaten, you know, Tutankhamun's father. They tore down his entire temple. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well,
so
lions do it too. They kill the cubs of, whoever the previous guy was that they killed.
Oh, wow.
Just get, so lions do it the same way. I guess it's an inherent thing in living creatures.
Yeah, apparently we're so insecure, all of us.
we have problems.
Yeah. So it's kind of building off of something Dan mentioned. What would be the appropriate way? Let's say somebody's visiting Hawaii for the first time and they want to see one of these sites. They are sacred. So what would be the proper procedure, the proper way to visit a site with respect?
Everything's based on intention. So the proper thing to do if you want to leave a flower lei, make sure it's one that's biodegradable. And before you go in, just say hi. I'm Dan. This is my wife. These are my kids. These are my parents, my grandparents. And here's my intention. And that's all it is. And you can actually take a lava rock with the same kind of intention.
Oh, okay.
That's where people get in trouble. They think it's their privilege or right to take it, and that box of lava rocks gets sent back, as we know.
Yeah.
So somebody sent us a bunch of lava rocks with a note, and I won't go into detail, but the woman said tragic circumstances followed.
Oh,
jeez. So I was like, why are you sending this to us?
Well, I did just that. I went in and I announced my intention, and I did mention my wife and daughter. I didn't go any further than in the family line, but I did announce the intention and why I was there. Just to look, right. And I know it's a cliche to say this. I've visited, and I also do some work in Kenya. So I've visited sacred sites in Kenya. I've been to the Great Pyramids and whatnot. When I visited that Heiau, you could feel the electricity in that area. You could just feel it, and I don't know if it was part of the emotion or what, but you're there on this sacred landscape. So, you literally pretty much answered straight through what I was going to ask. Were they also? I'm assuming they were also associated with different gods in and around the islands.
Yeah. So the position of the Heiau determines, who it's for.
Okay.
Which specific god, which pantheon of gods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then going into your. Oh, go on.
No,
Scott.
please, Dan. No, Dan, go ahead, please.
No, I insist.
I was going to go off topic. So if we're still on Heiaus, please go ahead.
So then one more, at least in this case, about the night marchers, when they follow the routes, then going back, they then are actually following essentially that geographical now I'm doing it system that we've laid out to go from one place to the other, because that's what they do, right? Along the march, they're visiting different Heiau locations, correct?
Well, if we consider that, that's ancient Hawaii and we have no mode of transportation, the thing left is via canoe or walk.
Okay. Yeah.
So if it's a march of elite, march of chiefs, it's natural that they have to stop at certain types of heiau for certain types of ceremony. Okay. And there's the march that's circumnavigating each island, collecting tax and tribute. But there are also the kinds of processions that have to go up to the mountain to fell acacia or koa trees, to bring them back down to the shore and, carve things out of them like canoes. And because it was the type of procession that had a lot of protocol, it was considered sacred. If on the way from, up the mountain, one of the rules was, if they're going and and they see some person just happens to be there and the person doesn't acquiesce according to the protocol, they kill that person and hold on to them. So after the ceremonies are done at the tree, that person's offered as a sacrifice.
Okay.
So there's those types of processions as well.
Wow.
Excellent. Thank you. So go on, Scott.
Yeah. Well, getting into the, we really have to lay some foundation because we're talking about things that I think most, mainlanders don't know much about. Like night marchers are one of the most phenomenal types of supernatural phenomena I've ever heard in my life. Drastic. And I do want to point out, let me pull this up here. that Lopaka, you've written a book on them. This came out just a couple of years ago. Hawaii's Night Marchers. You can find this on Amazon. Congratulations, first off. Anybody that writes a book, you put a lot of work into it. I was kind of curious in writing this book. Do people like to talk about, do locals on the island like to talk about it, or is this kind of something that, like, let's just not even bring up the name?
Oh no, a lot of people have submitted, their own personal experiences. From the housekeeper at a hotel to somebody who works in the governor's office. Oh, wow. And that's the beauty of the whole thing. Non-Hawaiians and locals alike have had these kinds of experiences, which kind of validates the whole thing for us.
Right. Yeah. Have you ever heard the distant sounds of an approaching night marcher procession?
So one night, and I'll keep it short, I have a tour of 38 people. They're all architects. And they were so scared, I had to convince them that we have to leave the office, get in the bus to do the tour. It's not going to work any other way. And so our first stop is a Chinese cemetery. And then I have to convince them, in order for this, because you paid all this money, we have to leave the bus. We have to walk through the cemetery. And so we get to the top of this Chinese cemetery. It's a children's section. So all the children who were buried there died from smallpox, and they're all about the same age. So traditionally, they're keeping each other company in afterlife. I'm standing at the top, people in front of me, and all of a sudden I see this wind tear through the cemetery. Like it's just bending all these royal palm trees. And I can see it all happening, but I can't hear it and feel it. And I kind of feel like encapsulated. It's like really, really humid. And I see these people running back to the bus. And so the following day, I called my cousin, Keone Nunes, and I told him what happened. He said, oh, last night was one of the night marcher moons, and they have a procession that goes through that part of the cemetery where you were standing. So he said this feeling of being encapsulated, it probably meant that you had some ancestor in that procession, and they probably surrounded you and protected you. And so I said, oh, maybe that explains why these other people just took off running. And he said, yeah, that was probably, probably better for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny now, but when it was happening, it was just so confusing,
What is a night marcher moon?
So there's 4 common moon phases as the moon is going dark, which is called Kane Lono Mauli Muku. So the Kane moon is the night of the warriors and chiefs. Lono is that procession in life that circumnavigates the islands. And Mauli is the night when spirits march the earth. And the night of Muku, which is the night of no moon, is reserved for the gods. So traditionally, common people were not supposed to be out and about. You're supposed to be indoors, everybody quiet. So during that moon phase, if someone was heard talking, if an animal made a sound, if your child cried, everybody, that person who made that noise, their family, and everybody in that village was slaughtered.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the kapu it was very, very strict.
And then if you could, and this is your most recent book, could you just give everyone an idea of what the story is behind you writing this book and what it's about?
Well, we have to say it's fiction because we were afraid after the book was published, people would start calling and say, who told you that?
Okay, yeah.
But it's a fictional novel about an office of 4 Hawaiian kahuna. And, they're very formal coat and tie and dress suit for the one woman. And essentially you go to this office, and if your case is valid, they will curse someone for you on your behalf. Yeah, but they don't do marital affairs or gambling or anything like that. So your reason has to be very valid, and if it works out, on your behalf, they'll do a curse for you.
That's really fun. I didn't know you got into fiction writing. How was that experience for you?
A lot of it was me sitting here talking to people like you, and my wife in the back doing the editing. And she'd turn around and say, "Semicolons, don't go here. Stop doing that."
That's excellent. By the way, my wife Wendy says hi, gives her best.
Hey, Wendy.
Yes, she's performing right now. I'm down in Galena, Illinois, which if you ever make it out here, we'd love to give you a tour. It's a small town, very haunted, lots of history.
Wow.
And I have to give a shout out to Ted and Robin of the Haunted Galena Tour Company. I am in their bedroom right now because the hotel I was in had no good internet. So it was a scramble to make sure I could still do this episode tonight. So big shout out and thanks to them.
Wow, that's great. What a bunch of nice people. That's nice.
Absolutely.
Let me piggyback on that. If and when you ever come to this area, Lopaka, I will also give you a tour of Robinson Cemetery, the native chief that was an integral part of early Chicago's history. The burial site is still there. The boulder is near the cemetery. I work with his descendants, and Scott was one of the people that helped us relocate the headstones, the lost headstones, bring them back to Chicago. Wow. I would love to give you a tour as well.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
in fact, Kahuna has been adopted to a screenplay.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So fingers crossed. Hopefully, the pitch works out.
Yeah, man. And it would be so great to be able to shoot that out there. Obviously I broke into production in Hawaii on Flight 29 Down and eventually Lost and a lot of other TV shows and commercials and forgetting Sarah Marshall. But I loved working out there. I love those crews. I love that attitude, just everything about living out there. I miss it all the time. So yeah, it'd be really cool for you to be able to create something there and then give so many of your neighbors jobs, basically.
Oh, absolutely. I would be happy to do that. I will say that after writing the screenplay, I have a very healthy respect for screenwriters because it's not easy. It's not easy.
It is absolutely not. And boy, oh boy. Let's talk offline, because if there's people I could connect to, or if you need other people to look things over, we can definitely continue that discussion, since that's my day job, is working with screenwriters.
Great. Awesome.
But you are quite the creator yourself. In addition to the books, and of course you've written the tours. I am such a fan of your YouTube channel, Mysteries of Hawaii. As I'm writing this book, I'm going to your channel, I'm going to your website, and you are one of my main sources. So you could be credited over and over and over again. But you've been putting out these really great short YouTube shorts, vertical videos telling ghost stories within 3 minutes or less. How has that been going for you?
So the overall success of Mysteries of Hawaii, that's actually my wife.
Well, shout out to her.
Yeah, I mean, she's the juggernaut that made this whole thing happen. And so a lot of this is basically her research and just me doing the voiceover.
Okay.
So this is why, when the day's over and I get home, this is why she gets a foot massage.
Yeah.
Coffee in the morning. I was like, what else can I do for you? Yeah. So
we should definitely have her on as well. Maybe we'll do a couples episode for Valentine's Day or something.
Well, that would be cool. But,
this
is a collaboration. So thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And huge credit and shout out to her. And I do have to say, we're on the topic. My wife and then my mom as well proofread my previous book. And man alive, I could have choked to death on all the Post-it notes I got, but the book was good because of it.
And yeah, you got to take it.
Yes.
At least you spelled Buzz's name right.
Yeah. There we go. There's always second editions where I can make fixes.
But she's also the reason why, the USA Today top 10 ghost stories in the nation. So she's also the reason why we've been voted #1 for the past 3 years.
That's awesome.
And she gathered our fan base and just told everybody, hey, vote. So this year we took a break. We wanted to give other mom and pop, ghost stories a chance.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. That's what happens when you have a great collaboration.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, because I'm too, I just got to stop making mistakes, and I got to force myself to get on TikTok because that's where so much is. Are these going there as well?
I think she something happened where she had to delete the TikTok, but we're going to get back on it.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would imagine that they would port over so well.
Oh yeah.
So because of a recent one, or at least it was recent to me. You never see when you see stuff on YouTube, you never really know, is this recent or is this just new to me? But there's a story that that was mind blowing, mostly because there was first off, mostly because it's real. And there's a tombstone and a cemetery in Honolulu that's labeled Heap of Misfortune.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
So that's the case of Miles Fukunaga, who in September 18th, 1928, kidnapped a 10-year-old boy from Punahou Schools and murdered him in Waikiki. And that's because his family, they were going to be evicted, and the Hawaiian Trust Company owned the land, and Miles Fukunaga and his father were out of work. So it's a Japanese thing where you're the oldest son in the family. You bear the responsibility. So, you know, he failed at committing suicide. So his plan, and maybe Dan, because you're from Chicago, he was a fan of this newspaper article about this murder case, Leopold and Lobenstein, where they kidnapped this 10-year-old boy. And so that whole thing, yeah, he used that case, modeled it so he could kidnap this 10-year-old boy. Yeah. And, you know, when he was found out, his family posted a thing in the newspaper, you know, we disavow our son, this, you know, we don't do this. But the other reason was they're going to be evicted from their home, and the Hawaiian Trust Company owned the land where the home was, and the owner of the Hawaiian Trust Company was the boy's father. Yeah, and so this heap of misfortune, that's where he is. That's where his ashes are at, and so it's letting everybody know, you know, this is him. This is what happened.
And so then it was the family that decided to put that name on there, those words on there, Heap of Misfortune.
Yeah. Heap of Misfortune.
Just to continue to shame the disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in that Japanese cemetery, that stone is the only one like it. There's no other like it.
Wow.
And so the symbol of that is, you know, the killer, Miles Fukunaga. That's because he was always a loner. He had no friends, girlfriends, anything like that.
Man. And that, if I'm not mistaken, that's the one in the top towards the left, the red, right?
Yep.
Yeah, right here. Yeah. So if anybody wants to check that out, go to Mysteries of Hawaii on YouTube, and you'll be able to see that video.
This has also become like the headstone for Edgar Allan Poe and Jim Morrison.
Oh.
Every Halloween, somebody leaves like 2 big barrels of sake, Japanese wine, and mochi and flowers and incense. And from the time of my late boss, Glenn Grant, until my time, no one knows who's doing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's like in Hollywood, at Rudolph Valentino's grave, a woman in black always goes and mourns, but nobody's been able to identify who she is. And this is going on 100 years now. So obviously other people have picked up the mantle, but still, who was that mystery woman? Dan, do you want to take it away next?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I'm already following your YouTube and your Instagram, so I'm going to check it out later. While you guys were giving quick shout outs, I might as well shout out to my wife, who's actually watching this at the moment.
There we go.
And has to put up with me doing what we do. So thanks for that.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Cindy. So the you know, it's a sensitive subject, and I'd like to put it out there. I'm not your typical archaeologist. You know, I take, and I'm not saying other archaeologists don't as well, but I also know how we're viewed by Indigenous people, and sometimes rightfully so. But we're gonna, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask a question that's probably a little more on the sensitive side. But when I was out there, when I was in Oahu, on Oahu, I started chatting with several local people, and you know, when they found out I was an archaeologist, they were excited to tell me about these burials on a certain ranch, where another archaeologist had gone, and he said he had never seen. They had to go and actually, I guess, survey and catalog the site to protect it. But he had said he's never seen this amount of humans before. And essentially, he said not only did you see it on the ground level, but of course up in the burial caves as well. And I don't need to tell you why. They had to tell me why. But I will say it for the viewers that may not know. Essentially, when people were buried in the caves, the people doing that for them then jumped off the cliff to keep the site secret. And essentially their families and they as well, for what they were going to do, were given the best land and they were taken care of. If I may ask, and you don't have to answer, I completely understand, but have you actually visited those areas? The ranch in question, of course, is where they filmed Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I mean the ranch, overall, but the actual burials.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, when I was out there, that was one of the things they had told me about. And look, I see enough. I don't need to see those. That's not where I'm supposed to be. But I didn't know, if you could basically tell a little bit more. But I know it's a very sensitive subject. But Scott and I have talked about it when I had returned. In fact, the day after I returned, he happened to be at his parents' house in Mundelein, and that's only 10 minutes, 15 minutes from me. So where I live now. So I drove over and we had a nice long conversation throughout the day. And that was one of the subjects we talked about. So, so essentially I know that more caves, and there's a YouTube video or documentary. I thought it was wonderful, called, oh God, what was it? Kapua?
Was it the kid that's got a burial cave on his property?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I thought that was well done. Him trying to protect that site, the passion behind it. And that's what made me want to really learn more. I saw that. I sort of went down that rabbit hole last year before coming to Oahu. So essentially, I'm assuming more sites are being uncovered. Unfortunately, many having been destroyed. And again, for people watching, Waikiki itself having been once just swath of burials, and whatnot. Even the military base on the other side of the island having burial sites as well, unfortunately destroyed. So I'm assuming more are tucked away and at least are protected, basically through the being inaccessible, really. But
yeah,
I know it's, again, it's a very sensitive subject. I know that. I do talk about these things with certain Native people here when we talk about it, but typically we try not to. So that's why I'm sort of hesitant to bring up a lot of this. But has it at least gotten better with protecting these sites? No? I thought as much. I was hoping the answer would be, but greed wins in the end. So, all right. Well, thank you.
You're about to say something?
Well, no, that's why we have these storms that tear through here. It's kind of like a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that when smallpox came here, it was between 1853 and 1854. So many people were wiped out, they ran out of room in graveyards and cemeteries.
Oh.
So essentially, large parts of downtown Honolulu, wherever you're walking, you're probably walking over, mass burials. So, those are all over the place in downtown Honolulu. And if you're a sensitive person, you go to these locations, you'll feel it. You'll know.
Kind of like Chicago with our cemetery in Lincoln Park, all the burials, or even Nagel, Scott, by Harlem and Irving, that big Potter's Field, where they put hundreds of people back in the early 1900s, 1800s, 1900s, and everything sort of went by the wayside. Time marched on. People started to build, and eventually roads went through, and they started uncovering human remains. And they had excavations even as far as the 1980s, and they still continue. Anytime someone has to do anything to those roads, they have to call an archaeologist to sort of mitigate what may or may not happen. and unfortunately, those potter fields are located all over the Chicagoland area. So it's sad and it's interesting, but it's sad that Honolulu has the same thing from what you just told.
Yeah. Well, one of my students is a former medical examiner, so she said when situations happen like that, they normally call her first, then the archaeologist, then the cultural person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's quite an interesting process. It really is.
Yeah. I was curious, and this is kind of a big question, so I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't prep you for it. But working with an archaeologist here, we love to find a historical story and then see like, oh, I wonder if there's anything left from that story. Things a site that might be lost to time. And man, oh man, the jungle takes back things so fast, as you know. Yeah. And I working out in Manoa Valley where we shot a lot of Lost. We saw that it wasn't that long ago that certain areas were totally stripped down for logging and all that, and it's fully an old growth jungle now, really quickly. I was curious if there are any lost sites that you've always wanted to find that are just somewhere kind of lost to time, deep in the jungle.
Believe it or not, I don't.
Yeah.
If I happen upon them, that's one. But and speaking only for myself,
right?
For me, if I'm meant to find some place like that, or the more correct term is if the place is meant to find me, then that's fine. Yeah, but to go purposely looking for it, I don't know.
It's interesting. I also just wonder, like, how many there are those handful of heiaus, more than a handful, but they're like famously findable. Whether it's by up from Foodland, Pupukea, or like Dan was saying, Makapuʻu. Yeah. There's some that are out in the open, and man alive, there's so many that are in the middle of neighborhoods, which is really unique too. I mean, odd, but that's progress where we just encroach on historic spaces. But I just wonder how many of them are out there still just in these deep in the jungles or on military land, and we can't get access to them.
A lot of not military, a lot of surveyors, map makers, found certain places, and they had Native Hawaiians come with them, and they go to the location and see a pile of rocks, and that Hawaiian person would say, "Oh, this used to be a heiau for this," but once the system was overthrown, this was destroyed, or this was dismantled. And so you look at those places today, it's like the first Hawaiian Bank building, it's the Walmarts. There's the Target store in Kailua. And if you peruse that parking lot, in detail, you'll see there's little fenced off places that they found burials and just left it where it was, but identified it.
Sure.
And in Maui, there's a strip mall that has a bunch of these, and these are all bones they found in the sand dunes. And just section it off so everybody knows what it is, and it's the most haunted strip mall in the entire state. Grocery cars have been seen rolling through the parking lot like on its own. Right. Just everything you could think of as a cognitive haunting. Voices, people being touched, your name being called. That's everything.
Interesting enough, when we were going to when we left Makapuʻu Beach, for a moment my internet dropped and whatnot for the satellite info for the GPS. But I knew there was a Target because that's the only thing that really popped up. I typed in Target. It was the only thing that was able. I said, all right, we're going to go to Target. We'll go until the internet comes back, and then we'll be able to go find a place to eat. Yeah, we're rolling along. At least we found the L&L right away. So we stopped over there, but we never made it as far as that Target. And now I'm kicking myself that we didn't go to Target. Because I could have at least seen what you were talking about. But the L&L was delicious. I give them that. So. We had a good time with that.
If you come back and you're on that side of the island, look for a place called Boots and Kimos.
Okay.
Yeah, the macadamia nut sauce pancakes. They're murder. They are murder.
Ooh. Okay. Well, my wife's listening right now. She probably went, "Ooh," if I know her well. Really quickly, Native Hawaiian stuff. aside, even World War II bunkers, like I had asked Scott, so you can laugh or not. I'm a fan of the old Magnum PI. I watched the new Magnum PI, and I'm sorry for you dying in Hawaii 5-0 twice. I saw you.
I know, what the hell?
And Carl Hodge.
Yeah.
I kept sending pictures of Scott. I go, he's dead again. But, there's an episode where they actually find an old bunker with all of these things from World War II still in there. So I'm wondering, with the jungle reclaiming so much so quickly, how much of that has been forgotten? Have you ever heard of any stories with World War II things in recent times being or coming to light with things still intact?
There's a guy on YouTube, and I forget his name, but that's what he does. He hikes and finds all these places. Yeah, and so he's accidentally found a couple of those bunkers.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got to send the link in Facebook Messenger. I got to see this.
Yeah,
please.
Once I find it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
But I want to say my time on Hawaii 5-0 and different projects I worked on. And this is told to me by a producer a couple of weeks ago. I went to a workshop about how to pitch a screenplay, and I didn't realize that I did this. She said, when you're on a set, no matter what your purpose is, if you're an extra, if you got a speaking role, she said, be nice to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, even the person that brings you coffee, say thank you, be nice, be cordial, because she said, if you're shit to that person and a year later they're the producer of a movie and you need a job, she said, you're screwed.
Yeah.
And so unknowingly, I did that my 2 times on Hawaii 5-0. Like, the girl came with an umbrella to walk me from my trailer to the set. I'm like, thank you so much. I appreciate this. And it's very nice of you. And she's like, no, this is my job. But then there was a kid they couldn't find, and they kept calling his name, the director of the episode. And this is going on for like 45 minutes, and they're calling him on the radio. Nobody knows where he is. And the director looks to his left, and there's this person in the other chair with the cap down like this, and wakes up and goes, oh, somebody calling me? He's like, you're here the whole time? He's like, go home. You're done.
Oh.
My wife has gotten annoyed at me because in the beginning it was like, oh, look, Hilton Hawaiian Village. And after a while, I'm like, is this all that they filmed is at the Hilton Hawaiian Village? Because I'm like, this is the bar we're in. That's the sidewalk. There's the pool. There's this. There's that. There's the beach where we celebrated 4th of July. So, yeah, she was getting annoyed too. Now we're, towards season 10. We're on season 10. And it's like, oh, look, in Hawaiian Village. So,
yeah. I will say that Alex O'Loughlin is cool.
One question: Did he get to meet the guy who played Steve? I'm sure he did. So
yeah. Well, I was going to say he was cool. We're in line for lunch, and I reached back for a salad, and he was standing behind me, and he gave me the brother handshake. He was like, hey, what's up? Aloha. I was like, hey man, how's it going? Just a nice guy. Both times I met him, just very cool.
Nice.
Good. Oh, one last on this one. What is the secret to a good on-screen death for an actor?
Like Supernatural, you get brought back 3 episodes later.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
You are the zombie of the show. Yeah.
When we get off here on the Facebook chat, I'll send you a link to 2 independent films I did.
Okay.
Cool.
Which got a bunch of awards, on the independent circuit. I'll send that to you.
Oh yeah.
Apropos of you being on TV, you and I have something in common. We both worked with Josh Gates. I drove him around for an entire weekend. And I just recently found out that you were on Legendary Locations. Of course, I'm going to have to look that up. So if I'm asked, what was it about, if I'm asked?
It was about the goddess Pele.
Okay.
Because while we were filming, the volcano was erupting, and it kind of cooled down.
Okay.
And so, they were telling me if we have to leave all of a sudden, it's because if the volcano erupts, like, we want to get a shot of it. And they said, and they don't want it to be B-roll. They like wanted the shot.
Yeah.
And I think I got the photograph. I'll send that along with the link.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to go rapid fire because I know we're getting down to it. And there's a couple locations that I just love so much. This is nicknamed Cockroach Cove, also Eternity Cove, but Halona Cove. Do you know any legends, lore, stories about this location? I just have to throw it out there.
So the channel between Oahu and Molokai is the Kaiwi channel, and it's treacherous. And Kaiwi basically means the bones. So when canoes would get swamped and couldn't fight the current, the bones of those people would wash up at Halona Cove.
Whoa. Okay.
Yes.
Didn't know that one. That makes it a little less enchanting.
Yeah, we climbed all over it, my daughter and I.
Yeah. And then the blowhole, when you needed to get rid of a body, that's where you threw it, because the blowhole would just, yeah.
I churn it up. Yeah, I have actually heard that little bit of color. Yeah. And then just up the coast a little bit, Sandy's. This is, I think, one of the most, it's such a beautiful beach, but it's so dangerous. It's nicknamed Breakneck Beach.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the first couple times I was here, I walked around thinking like there's got to be a Heiau or something, but I couldn't, I mean, there isn't one, at least not anymore. And I also haven't found any ghost stories associated with this area, although it just seems like it's, I don't know, it's too picturesque to not have some stories behind it, Sandy
Beach has, and the great thing is EMS workers and police have told me certain hours, certain nights, it has this woman who's in the water and she's calling out for help and she's holding her child. And the swimmer goes up to help them and they keep, further back until swimmers, caught and drowned.
Wow.
And then between here and the island of Molokai, where Sandy Beach is now, used to live a bunch of Kahuna. And across the channel at Molokai was another bunch of Kahuna. And they would throw fireballs across the channel, cursing each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Because there's fireballs seen at Makapuʻu Beach. Well, I've read because I've seen you interviewed in an article that mentioned that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so is that associated with the same story?
Yeah, pretty much. And, it's kind of creepy because you have orbs of fire being cast at you in the form of curses, and you've got bones washing up on the beach further down, not too far.
Absolutely. I knew it was good to talk to you about this. You are such a resource. And finally, from last part of my rapid fire one, I just learned about a story from 1920s Makapuʻu Lighthouse of an explosion that like really tragically killed one of the assistants. The other lived. The other of the two assistants lived. And then the person that passed away, he left a pregnant wife behind, and she passed away pretty soon after. So that was, tragedy on top of tragedy. Is the lighthouse haunted, or the area around it at all?
The area around it, what is now the two parking lots, is haunted by the spirits of women who only appear to men who are cheating. Because a lot of women, and my student former medical examiner she said a lot of women go there to commit suicide because of infidelity.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's verified by her and some of the police officers who had these encounters, which is why now the police officers that patrol that place between 4 and 6 in the morning, that's all the rookies straight out of the academy, like all single.
They get the short straw. Yeah.
Yeah. Because apparently it only happens to married people.
That's
having
wild.
affairs. Yeah.
And that if anybody's watching the video portion of this, you can see where we got Google Earth up, and you can just see that there's a huge cliff, several 100 feet tall cliff right there. It is. Yeah. I mean, this whole stretch that we're talking about right now is my favorite part of the island. I literally dream about this part of the island about once a week, if not once a month at the slowest. I just love it so dearly, but didn't know a lot of these legends. And in discovering, sharing these legends, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Glenn Grant, who was kind of a mentor figure to you, as you mentioned. And also, I found it awkward when I first was out there. I'm like, oh, I want to tell the ghost stories. And then I felt like, well, it's not my place to, because I'm not ancient Hawaiian. Not ancient Hawaiian. I'm not native Hawaiian. I'm definitely not ancient either. But then I find out Glenn Grant, he was not exactly native Hawaiian himself.
Yeah.
And I just know about how on the mainland in the Midwest, how guarded Native American stories are within the tribe. You might not share that with people on the outside. How what is the feeling when it comes to Hawaiians sharing Hawaiian stories?
Well, the thing with Glenn Grant is he was actually invited by a friend of his to come to the university in the early 70s to complete his doctorate in American history. So he didn't arrive with the purpose of, being a storyteller. But what happened in the short story is he ended up in this beautiful shack near the university. 4 other guys for their, candidates for their doctorates. And when Glenn told me this, he said the rent was unaffordable, which is why we had 6 people living in the house. And he said it was $125 a month. I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh.
So a bunch of stuff happens in the house, and Glenn said they called the landlord, an old Japanese lady, and each guy told her what was happening. And when they were done, she told him the woman who lived in this house before, her husband fooled around, and she hung herself in the kitchen, and she hates men.
Oh.
And so my boss said after that, like within 6 months, he said every single one of his roommates were killed in car accidents.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
And so he said he had a 56 Chevy Bel Air station wagon. Like it was his pride and joy. And one night he's going through the intersection, 2 a.m, no traffic. And he said this truck just like T-bones the whole thing. And at that point in the story, he leaned over his desk and he pulled his hair back like that. He's like, you see this? So there's a scar going from here to here. He said, that's all I got. He said, everybody else died.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so he said that actually led him to, find out and study about ghosts and spirits in Hawaii.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's cool.
So you know what you have to do, right, Scott?
Survive a car accident.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Okay. So I saw on we have 5 minutes left. I do have a question, but Dan, is there anything that you really want to make sure we get in?
Lopaka, you've answered everything that I have tried to grill Scott for and look up. So honestly, I don't want to take up any more time on that with my questions, but Scott, go ahead, please.
Oh, sure. So, I mentioned back on the YouTube page, the ghostly guardian of Menehune Fish Pond. And it's not specific to that story, but just Menehune in general. Again, something else that is a supernatural phenomena that is so specific to Hawaii. And, I've been writing about it and researching it. The idea that there are these little people that maybe they've got some magical abilities. There's lots of commonalities between other historical legends and lore of little people as well. But then the thing that what I'm really driving at or getting to is something that I found fascinating, which was when the first census, I should say, was taken, that Menehune were listed and counted.
Yeah, 75. 75. Yes. Yeah.
75 Menehune, I think, was it in Maui? I can't remember what island.
On Kauai.
On Kauai.
Yeah.
Which, to me, I wonder, were these actually maybe a different tribe that were uncontacted from ancient times that people saw, that they're flesh and blood, just a different type of people? What are your thoughts on Menehune?
Well, according to some scholars and folklorists on Kauai, the Menehune might have actually been a group of people who came from some other place in the South Pacific. And their purpose was, to help the people with whatever they needed. And the Menehune queen, her name was Mo'ihi. She started to get upset that her people were marrying into, the Hawaiian race. And so a group of them, sailed back home, and the rest who married into the Hawaiian race, are the ones that stayed. So okay. My wife and I personally know a woman from Kauai who openly said, they're descended from Menehune.
Wow.
And when she said that, and I looked at her features like carefully, I said, I see it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We got to get like an official designation and within 23andMe so you can know what percentage Menehune you are.
Yeah, that would be wild.
Yeah.
That really
Well, I just want to. Oh, go ahead, Dan, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Even the little people here in the Great Lakes. For example, up north, Buzz, Scott, my mutual friend, he's Menominee. And the Menominee Indians have legends of little people, and they live in the western part of the reservation in the rocky areas. I've got Menominee friends up there that tell me, you know, if you see a little person out in the woods, you know, even though they are little tricksters and whatnot, they will essentially, you're coming into money or some kind of wealth as well.
Oh.
So it's interesting on how these legends and what have you, these beliefs span across both mainland and the islands. And then, of course, and correctly, I think it was Vietnam people that were found in the caves, the burial caves, a number of years ago. So all these things tie in easily.
The reason I acknowledge that is I saw a couple of YouTube videos about Vietnam veterans, you know, who had encounters with what they call little people in Vietnam, you know, during the war.
Huh.
Yeah. So that makes sense. I think at some point we all started from the same location and we just spread out. There's too many similarities.
No, for sure. And you know, any time we talk about Indigenous Hawaiians, it's like, well, we know that a volcano came up and there was nothing on that volcano the first time there was land out there. So literally nothing is from, other than the land itself, nothing's from Hawaii. So, you know, how do you define a native Hawaiian, you know?
I guess it's over, you know, a matter of time.
Sure.
The people migrates and, you know, they begin to have families and families have families. And, you know, you then become the native person of that location, you know, after a while. But, you know, in our history, there's been so many migrations from the South and then all of a sudden it stops. You know? Almost like Japan, you know, at some point they just have to cut everybody off.
Right.
And Dan, I got to say, you're the nicest archaeologist I've ever met.
Well, thank you very much for that. Mahalo. But
it kind of sounds like there was a low bar for that, though.
We'll talk later, maybe over some beer. But you know, the thing that I like to pride myself on is that I try to work with Native people. I've been doing that quite honestly for well over almost 30 years now. I try to not only work with them, but also allow their voice to enter into my work, you know, into my writing, not just my perspective. I don't take credit for what I do, but I talk to them. I ask them, you know, they tell me stories, they tell me things, and I don't repeat them. It's like any, you know, Native person. They have these things, these stories that belong to them, but they don't go telling people outside. But then some learn to trust you, and they tell you things that are sacred to their people, and you just don't repeat them, you know. And it's like I tell anyone, you know, when you're working with Indigenous people, it takes a while to bring the walls down, but once you do, they will treat you like family. You are, in your case, Ohana, right? But here they treat you like family. If you do anything to mess that up, walls go back up, but that's it. You're done. You can't be trusted, you know.
Absolutely. I'll say quickly, archaeologists that I've dealt with were parts of cultural surveys. So they're going to build a location, and they come to me, ask me about all the cultural stuff. And after I tell them, you know, the first thing they start doing is dispute everything I say.
Oh,
I don't get upset. I'm like, you know, that's fine, whatever. Because 6 months to a year later, same person calls me back. We're having hauntings at this location. It's like, what did I say?
Here's the thing, you know, and I do this in Kenya too, and this is why, you know, when I'm out there, it's the world over. I'm Italian. What do Italians like to do? We eat, right? It's like anybody. Right, manja, right? And as I was leaving Hawaii, I met a local at the airport, and she said, "We Islanders love to eat." Because I asked her, she said something about food. I said, "We're going to let my daughter stay with you now. She's not coming home with us." She goes, "That's okay. We'll feed her." I said, "We'll feed her. I'm coming to eat at your house." Good, more the merrier. We Islanders love to eat. I go, "So do we Italians." But see, that's the thing, right? Food is the common denominator. It breaks down all of social barriers. You sit down, you eat, you discuss, and you have a good time, and that's what it's about. You know, And unfortunately, the average American doesn't understand that. Sorry, America, but they don't. Everything is rush, rush, rush. Get it down your throat. I got to go here. I got to go there. We don't have time to sit down and discuss. I mean, look at family parties, birthday parties, right? Family reunions. Everything is, we got 2 hours at a restaurant. You eat and then you leave.
Right.
You know, nothing is sit down anymore and have an actual discussion for hours
Facebook,
on end.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and honestly, I think that's one of the other reasons why I get along so well with Native people, is because that's how it is. You relax.
You
let
hit
them
the nail on the head. Yeah.
Yep.
There we go.
So,
well, thank you so much for the time and insight. And I do want to mention mysteriesofhawaii.com. mysteries-of-hawaii.com is the website where you can find out, get the links to a lot of different things that Lopaka is doing, including the tours. And, you know, so many companies, there's so many ghost tour companies around America now that they just give a script to a reader that sometimes they just read it off the clipboard. But if you're getting a tour from Lopaka, he is the source on, you know, you're talking to somebody that's really dedicated their life to it. And I've had the privilege to take his tour. And yeah, it's really amazing to just hear these stories directly from you, who have done so much research and lived it and just really dedicated so much of your passion to it. And again, I always have to shout out the wives. So thank you so much to his wife as well for bringing the books to life and bringing the YouTube channel to life. So Mysteries of Hawaii, Lopaka Kapanui on Amazon to find the books. And is there anything else that you want to mention before we say goodbye?
October 31st, we're going to be at the Blue Note Ghost Stories. So
fantastic.
We'll post
is that
it.
Waikiki?
Yeah, that's in Waikiki.
And is that place haunted?
Oh yeah, I mean, in Waikiki, what's not haunted?
Yeah,
that's the beauty of it. But Scott and Dan, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Lopaka, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm finally glad we got here. So let's do it again.
And I'm glad I finally with you.
Same here.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you everyone for watching. And if you yourself come across a fantastic story or have a fun time telling fantastic stories, let us know, and you might just be the next member of the Fantastic Story Society. Thank you.